Okay. All right. Hey guys, welcome to another Sunday sermon session. And we are attempting to do this via Ecamm Live again. So I hope you are able to view properly, and I hope the internet connection sustains itself. Otherwise, I will turn straight to my mobile phone version of the Facebook Live. All right. So I'm just going to open up my mobile as well, just to check in on any on the video, any comments, etc. And all right, yep, looks like it's gone through. That's great. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Over the last week, there's been quite a few developments, and of course, as always mentioned, guys, my personal bias is towards Bitcoin Cash, but knowing that the point of the group is to help and support everybody who's coming into this cryptocurrency space. So I've been seeing a lot of great comments coming in and posts around some of the other altcoins, ICOs, etc. Keep it up. And this first segment, I'll just take you through some of the latest developments in Bitcoin Cash. Then we'll go over some of the other altcoins and ICOs. And then we'll do a little bit of a Q&A. I happened to bump into a member of the community, and I'll bring her in towards the end as well. So we can just have a chit-chat around what's been going on in the crypto space. All right, so let me just bring up my browser. All right. Okay, so in this week for Bitcoin Cash, these were the latest developments. BitsPay, which is sort of like a PayPal, from what I know about it. I remember learning about it a couple months back, and I do like what they've done. I like their interface. I like their UX, but they've recently added support for Bitcoin Cash, and that's, I think, a great move for them, and especially for Bitcoin Cash. Blockchain, which is another Bitcoin, a pretty well-known Bitcoin wallet, they have also added native support for Bitcoin Cash, which is huge. Atomic swaps are coming to Bitcoin Cash as well, if it's not there already. Bitcoin.com is working on incognito payments. Lamasu BTC, so that is actually the ATM, so Lamasu ATMs that are currently placed around the world. So I'm currently in Adelaide at the moment, taking a random trip out, but I'm usually based in Sydney, and before that I was actually in Melbourne. But in Sydney, there are two Lamasu ATMs near my workplace, which is actually pretty awesome. So before, I think this was around maybe September or October, I did go to the Lamasu ATMs to put in some cash to purchase some Bitcoin as well. But now that they got Bitcoin Cash, I don't have to do the whole conversion thing. I can just put in some fiat currency directly into Bitcoin Cash. So that's really great. So be on the lookout as well. Check out Lamasu online. It's not just for Australia. I think they have ATMs all over the world. And find the ones that are closest to you in your nearest city. We also have Brian Kelly, Bitcoin Cash. I think this is from CNBC. So I'm just going to open this up real quick. Brian Kelly. Come on, internet. Yeah, I think it's from CNBC. Yeah, that's right, Brian Kelly. So I believe that comment there was in relation to one of the hosts of the CNBC interview they were doing with the COO of Coinbase. And Brian Kelly essentially said on national television that Bitcoin Cash is essentially Bitcoin. And that's a pretty big deal. Here's a video. So I'm just going to play this.
Looks like that. And what I'm getting at is Bitcoin Cash would be ready to be listed on your platform, because Bitcoin Cash is effectively Bitcoin.
Yep. So there you go. All right. So that was said on CNBC Fast Money to the COO of Coinbase. And, you know, Coinbase is effectively the number one exchange in the world right now. Their app was featured, I think, for a brief moment in time as the number one most downloaded app. And I think even Coinbase were pretty surprised about that as well. So very interesting developments. Shapeshift, popular trades on Shapeshift.io, BTC to BCH. So that means the most popular trade. I personally use Exodus, which is an offline wallet. And it looks like over the last week, the most popular trade was between Bitcoin to Bitcoin Cash. And I think this has a lot to do with, I guess all the news that's coming out and the distinction that's being made between Bitcoin Core or Bitcoin Legacy, whatever, the community ends up deciding what it's going to be called. Because I think just calling it Bitcoin now, after what has happened over the last week, isn't helping. Because BTC Bitcoin right now is no longer the Bitcoin that was originally designed. And that was made extremely clear. So that particular interview was with Jimmy Song and Roger Ver. So on Tuesday, that interview took place. And in this interview, it was really interesting to see that, well, you essentially have two camps, right? It seemed like the core supporters are supporters of the developer narrative, which, all props to those who are on that side of the Bitcoin debate. But the developer narrative is very far removed from the economics of Bitcoin, which, explains a lot in terms of why we now have the 1 megabyte cap and why it continues to be that way. Because the developers are essentially trying to change Bitcoin into, and remember, when I'm saying developers, obviously not all of them are developers or those that are on the BTC camp side. I'm just saying it to generalize, but Jimmy Song, it got really clear that they were looking at the store of value narrative as opposed to Roger Ver, which is the same pitch that he's had about Bitcoin since day dot, which is that Bitcoin is meant to be both, a global currency system and a store of value, and that in economics, you have a store of value come as a result of utility. So without the utility, you cannot have essentially that true store of value. And I believe there was also the Swedish party leader, political party leader of the Pirates or something. I forget what his name is, but follow him all the time. I want to see if I can bring him up. Let's see if we can get him. Where is he? But there was a video that was making the rounds on Twitter talking about how even the narrative as a store of value from the Bitcoin Core side is not even a valid argument anymore. And the reason for that is because in order to be a store of value, there needs, and this is based on the definition from Investopedia. So I'm actually just going to quickly look that up on my mobile because I think it'll go faster. Investopedia, store of value, and they were saying essentially there are like 3 criterias that you need in order to be considered a store of value. So bringing that up quickly. So wealth preservation is a key component of a healthy economy, blah, 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 blah. Well, to facilitate, okay. Money is relied upon to preserve the economic value of an individual or business's accumulated labor, as well as to facilitate exchange. A monetary unit that serves poorly as a store of value compromises an economy's savings and reduces its willingness to trade. Thus, a credible currency must be established for people to engage in labor and trade. A store of value is any form of wealth that maintains its value without depreciating. Commodities such as gold and other forms of metal are good stores of value, as their shelf lives are essentially perpetual, whereas a good such as milk is a terrible store of value due to its natural process of spoilage. Interest-bearing assets such as the U.S. Treasury bonds are very good stores of value because they generate an income of their own and their principal value is backed by a legal contract. So I think what the leader of the Pirates political party was talking about is that even as a store of value, Bitcoin isn't actually that reliable because when you purchase Bitcoin, due to its high volatility, you don't ever know really what amount you'll be able to take back out later on down the line. And so even with that narrative, it doesn't hold as strongly. And if you can have it, this is based on of the definition from Investopedia. It includes the exchange, the medium of exchange part. So if Bitcoin no longer has isn't a medium of exchange, then what essentially is it? Because by the Investopedia definition, it can't even be a store of value. So these are the things that are going to continue to be of importance in this debate between Bitcoin and Bitcoin Cash. In that debate, you also have Litecoin, because a lot of people believe that, well, if Bitcoin Core or Legacy, whatever we're going to be calling it, is no longer a currency and they're just looking for it to be a store of value, then Litecoin, has been around longer than Bitcoin Cash, and it has lower fees, and it's faster. All right, so why would you even look at Bitcoin Cash? Well, there are a couple of reasons why, and I had come across a few articles during the week as well that explained just some of these things, and I'm going to try and bring it up. Wish I brought it up before, because now we got the video playing or streaming. My laptop is shitting itself. So essentially what was being said, and I'll try to summarize and see if I can get it back on my Twitter account. LTC fees are 200% greater than BCH currently. Also, as LTC scales, it's still under the 1 megabyte block size, and it too will face the same issues BTC is facing. So these are some of the criticisms of Litecoin in terms of how it will stand in the long run. Now, this doesn't mean that things can't come in from Charlie Lee, who's the founder of Litecoin, to make it better. The one thing that Litecoin has it going for it right now is that it has a very strong community, and I think for that reason, we can continue to see its price rise in the future. But because it's still under that 1 megabyte cap that Bitcoin has, because essentially Litecoin is a lighter version of BTC Bitcoin, that may prove to be an issue for it as it scales or as it gets more popular. So for those of you who are Litecoin true and true, continue, to support it. I always tell everybody, support the projects that you believe in, but do take into account some of these other counter arguments that are coming up as well. And these are some of them for Litecoin. So other folks who have been talking about Litecoin as well say it may face the same governance consensus issues that BTC currently has when it scales, and then end up in the same situation that BTC has. So that could definitely impede its progress. Other Bitcoin Cash news, and don't worry, we'll get to the altcoins and the ICOs, are these and these. So things that are coming up for Bitcoin Cash in early as January include an incognito mode. So this is a coin shuffling service built in to help anonymize coins. So this addresses some of the privacy concerns around Bitcoin or Bitcoin Cash. And so this may give it, perhaps giving challenge to other coins like Zcash and Monero. So Zcash and Monero have had that going for it as an alternative, or a more secure and safer alternative. But if the incognito mode comes in, or if any of these other privacy mechanisms come in for Bitcoin Cash, that might give Zcash and Monero a run for its money as well. Also, I know Bitcoin Cash is moving to a 32 megabyte default block size cap. So for those of you that are not familiar, Bitcoin Cash currently has an 8 megabyte cap, and unlike BTC Bitcoin, it's not limited to remain at 8 megabytes forever. It can continue to grow and increase in size as the network requires. Bitcoin Cash is also turning on old opcodes again, back on, allowing for more expressive programs to be written in script, and allowing for a built-in smart contract back on chain. So this also gives folks like Ethereum a run for their money. So it'll be really interesting to see what sort of developments will take place on the Bitcoin Cash blockchain. And this is really significant because Bitcoin was originally designed to do more than just money. Even though it is designed primarily to be a global currency, it can also do a lot of these smart contract things as well. All right, so it'll be interesting to see what happens in that arena. And if you want to learn more about what's happening there with Bitcoin Cash technical upgrades or implementations in the new year, just check out the Bitcoin ABC site, and you'll see the strategic roadmap of what is coming up. None of this is not unknown or not in the public sphere at the moment. Okay, so that's that from the Bitcoin Cash side. If you haven't, as I mentioned, if you haven't seen that interview with Roger Ver and Jimmy Song, this video just sums up essentially like the whole political divide in the Bitcoin community on both sides. All right. Of course, Craig Wright, he also claims that 2018 will be the year of Bitcoin Cash. think you've heard enough of me talk about Bitcoin Cash now. Okay, altcoins and ICOs. So IOTA. I've noticed in our group, the Bitcoin Will Come Facebook group, we've had a lot of folks talk about IOTA and Litecoin. Now, IOTA, I've definitely been keeping an eye on IOTA. I think the promise of what they talk about is enticing, and it's definitely interesting, but something in my gut has been telling me to kind of be wary of. And, I've been trying to understand why I've been uneasy about IOTA. And there were a few things that popped up over the week that kind of confirmed that, but understanding that we all have, biases and confirmation bias. So, because I feel a certain way, I may also find evidence to support how I feel. So, noting that, I will share with you some of the stuff that I came across this week. And back in the group, you guys, I'll post these links, and you guys can certainly refute it, or discuss or provide some further links that show why this may potentially be FUD, or if there is actual validity to it. But the general feel that I get around IOTA is that there's this promise of the Tangle that is essentially going to disrupt the blockchain space, right? Because there's a lot of hype around blockchain in general. Now, Tangle is a promise of essentially doing what blockchain does, but without all the downsides of the blockchain. Okay, and this includes certain things like, and I want to highlight this here. So, the claims about IOTA. IOTA is deflationary, so it has a fixed number of tokens, will never be any more, has no inflation at all, no issuance schedule for new tokens. All tokens which will ever exist were created on day one and pre-distributed to people who signed on the project very early. IOTA has zero fees, period, forever. Okay, right? With Bitcoin and many other cryptocurrencies, we have fees, not entirely free, but low, or in the case of BTC Bitcoin, incredibly high. IOTA has fast confirmation times, is nearly infinitely scalable, has no centralized miners. Instead, every participant in the system is effectively a miner, or more accurately, a transaction validator. So these things here actually, they sound very great in writing, but there are a few issues with that. This goes back to sort of the brilliance of the Satoshi design, which I feel is very holistic, because it took into account game theory, it took into account mining, it took into account group psychology, it took into account everything. The mining aspect is one of the biggest, I think, issues for folks in the cryptocurrency community, because it seems like, I don't know if it's tall poppy syndrome, but people don't like the idea of the miners, like centralization of the miners being able to get the majority of wealth, if that's how they even look at it. But you have to understand that the miners are the ones who are actually doing the work so that you can claim Bitcoin and that you can transfer it. So this is all part of game theory too, where you need to incentivize the system so that, in a way, the miners actually have it bad because they have to constantly be running. They can never sit still. Craig Wright had talked about this Bitcoin being sort of like the Red Queen world, where you have to constantly be moving in order to stay still. And that's essentially what the world of the miners, or the mining world, is like in cryptocurrencies, especially for Bitcoin. So, and it's important to have small fees, or at least close to none, and having it free. Well, we talk about what stuff is backed up by in the Bitcoin world. The miners, they get their fees for mining the blocks, and the real world sort of exchange, or what it's backed by, is the electricity consumption, which is another topic or issue. But it says IOTA is nearly infinitely scalable, fast confirmation times. These things are not that unique to things like Bitcoin Cash or Satoshi's Bitcoin we'll just use. And so, yeah, and a lot of it does seem to be hype. There was also promises of strategic partnerships with other big names. I think Microsoft was said to be a partner of IOTA, but then during the week it was confirmed by the IOTA team that they had never said that Microsoft was, or Microsoft denied that they were. So there's a lot of untested things here, but to be fair, there's a lot of untested things with a whole bunch of cryptocurrencies. But for me personally, IOTA is one. Even though it's been making some gains, as I continue to research, it's not looking as favorable for me personally to invest in. But, for those of you who are getting your feet wet, go for it, okay? Well, go for it after you've done your own research. And remember, take responsibility for your own finances. This is just what I've discovered and what I am also concerned about. But remember, if it is a project that you believe in and you want to support with your money, and you think that it could be disruptive to the blockchain technology itself, then by all means continue on. For me, I'm not too sure I want to be investing anything into IOTA for the reasons that I've just outlined. All right, so here's another one. IOTA interview. Trust systems are absolutely pivotal. Yep, cool. That's fine. All right, now we'll talk about some of the ICOs that I've been looking at. One is Envion. So I think I mentioned this in the last sermon, but there's only a couple hours left now to get in on the Envion ICO. And essentially Envion is all about helping out with the electricity side of the mining issues around cryptocurrencies. So, a lot of folks have been talking about how there's a lot of electricity consumption right now with cryptos, and Envion is an ICO that is looking to address this by creating mobile energy units. So they're essentially mining by taking off the excess energy that is outputted from a lot of energy grids around the world, and it's actually a really smart. It's a really smart ICO or idea. And the difference between this ICO and some of the other ones is they're not just issuing tokens and that's it. They're actually issuing tokens that will provide dividends. All right, so this is like actually investing in a company. And I think within the first hour they raised about $12 million US already. And I think last time I checked they were at 24, 26, something like that. So these guys are definitely one to look out for, and just go to Envion or Google them. And I'll include the links as well in the video after I finish recording this sermon. This one just tells you what you need to do in terms of being prepared to invest in it. Another one is Etch. Etch is dealing with a payroll. All right, so essentially this is looking at helping people getting work and get paid instantly, receive Etch tokens that you can use to spend. So you wouldn't even need a bank account, for example, if you were to get a job somewhere. Essentially, Etch will allow you to have, you wouldn't require a bank account, and you'd be able to spend those Etch tokens in the real world using an Etch payroll card, which is really interesting. I'm sure you still have the option to transfer to your bank account if you want to, but the idea here is that they're looking to disrupt payroll, and I think it's a great idea. And it also allows the company, and so here's the other cool thing too, is like the money doesn't need to come in every month or every week. It could actually come in real time. So every single day the money can come in, and you can choose when you want to cash out. The other one is Populous. These guys are looking to disrupt invoicing. And if you're familiar with Cliff High, who I talk about a lot, he has mentioned Populous. He has mentioned payroll and invoicing being one of the more exciting opportunities or spaces to be disrupted in the new year in 2018. So definitely keep an eye out on that. Whoa, okay. So that's it for the news breakdown. I am now going to invite Kimberly, who I've bumped into in Adelaide. And she's also a member of the community. So hold up. Let's get Kimberly on.
Hello.
All right. So,
Might want to turn it that way.
yeah, I'm going to actually get it. There?
Yeah.
All right. Okay, so it's getting hot. I'm going to put it back. Okay, so let's go in. I'm going to actually just bring up some of the questions from the group this week. And Kimberly and I are just going to talk a bit about, stuff that's been happening in the week. So maybe first up, Kimberly, what got you into the cryptocurrency world? Or what got you fascinated by it?
Well, I got a good friend of mine in another group I'm actually part of called the International Academy of Wealth. Got me, Mark was there chatting about it, and it just sort of blew my mind. And I just thought, this is something that's pretty amazing. And at first it sort of went over my head. And then as I started to understand it a lot more, I understood the vision of it. And I loved Craig's vision for Bitcoin or blockchain technology was that there are so many people in the world who do not have access to bank accounts. Majority of those are women in very poor areas of the world. So the blockchain actually allowed these women to get money without having to go through a banking system that took weeks, sometimes months, for the money to transfer and go through all these processes before they actually got the money. It was verified very quickly, and then the money was in like a bank account or an online wallet that they could have access to. So it was helping the poorest people of the world actually have access to some form of money.
Yep.
Which is what I love about it.
Yep. And what's your personal interest in empowering women's side? Like, why? Yeah, is that important to you?
Because I think I've read a book called Half the Sky, which changed my view of how we see 50% of the population. Now, here in the West, while we are still relatively behind the men, we're not as badly behind as what some of these women are in the third world countries. And many of them are still, the husband only controls all the wealth, or all the males in the family control all the wealth, and they have no personal access to money. So if they're in a bad situation, they actually can't get out.
Yeah.
They're still kept as property.
Yeah.
So for me, I think seeing that Craig Wright's vision for blockchain technology is really very important in giving everybody around the world the opportunity to experience some form of their own wealth.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people haven't even thought about how blockchain tech could be used to, help the poor or help empower women financially around the world too. And I would add to that's one of the reasons why I got involved with Bitcoin in the first place was because of the idea of having a truly global currency first in the world. People could argue right now that the U.S. dollar is that. It's the global standard, but it's still the U.S. dollar, right? There isn't something that is a truly global currency. And on top of that, there was huge community support, very grassroots in how Bitcoin first came to be. And it was about financial sovereignty, How could something like Bitcoin allow people to be able to move without needing banks for permission for everything that they do? And if you've been, paying attention to what's been happening in the world, especially a lot of countries that are going through political turmoil, when things get really bad in an economy, the banks have the ability to essentially shut down your accounts, right?
And take that money.
Without your permission. And this is also what kind of contributed to the 2008 global financial crisis. Although that didn't happen to everybody, I think places like Venezuela, Greece, right? Exactly. Iceland
were hit very hard.
Yep. So you could call it idealistic, but it's that sort of idealistic nature that causes revolutions. Yeah. Right?
The other interesting thing is that the blockchain, not just Bitcoin, but the blockchain technology behind it can also stop a lot of counterfeit medications that are going into many countries, because there's millions of people that die per year on taking counterfeit medication that they were told that was the real deal, but the blockchain can actually stop that, so that will stop thousands of deaths down the track from mistaking the medication for being the right one. So that's where the blockchain can also be used.
Yep. And you're interested in medtech as well, right? Yeah. So what other use cases do you see for blockchain in medtech, or what have you been noticing in medtech as like opportunities as well?
Well, vaccination. Whatever your opinion is on vaccination. Yep. Well, you've got those. We recently had an outbreak in Adelaide of swine flu because it wasn't foreseen. Yep. And in this round of the flu vax didn't quite work as well as what it should have.
That sucks.
And we had a big outbreak. So using the blockchain, we could have brought in different vaccinations far more quickly than having to go through all the channels
Yep.
to then bring that into the country, so that we could have just got on the blockchain, bang, done.
Yep.
Certainly, I can see revolutionising politics eventually,
Yep.
and just protecting people with the right sutures, right equipment, right things in the hospital, medical records that could change exactly how we view medical records. Doctors can bring that up very quickly.
Yep. Yep.
You know, particularly if that person's had an emergency. I mean, and there's lots of privacy issues around that as well. So there's things that will have to be looked at. But having that information stored on a blockchain, no matter where you are in the world, if there is an emergency, you just go bang into a system. Here's this person's allergies, any surgery that they've had, all those sorts of things. If you cannot talk, or you haven't got your power of attorney or your next of kin with you.
Yep.
So that's where things in medical technology can really revolutionise how we do that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, well said. MedTech is not an area that I'm very familiar with. So if there are any of you that are interested in that side, Kimberly is definitely passionate around health, the med side. And I think it's going to be pretty interesting over the next couple of years to see, how many different industries do get impacted or affected by blockchain.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just going to take us through some of the questions from the week. So, all right, what are people's predictions for a year's time in the crypto space? Hey, people are looking for some price predictions. Why don't we just throw out some numbers? Kimberly? Yeah, come on. Why not? All right. So Bitcoin. Where do you think it will be in?
Simeon thinks it's going to be at 50,000. I don't know where Bitcoin's going to go. It's rising.
Which Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, Bitcoin Legacy, so Bitcoin Core, is just going crazy at the moment. Will it keep rising? I'm not quite sure. Do I believe it also to be a store of value? Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, there's some issues with Bitcoin that I don't like, and that is some of the fees, which takes away from the vision.
Yep.
And it was only supposed to be like a couple of cents for transferring, and now it's huge.
Yeah.
So, am I a fan of Bitcoin? Yes, but 50,000. Well, I hope so.
Wait, are you a fan of which Bitcoin we talking about? Are we talking about the original Satoshi Bitcoin or the current day Bitcoin that has been kind of...
I'm not a huge fan of the current day Bitcoin. I'm always for a vision.
Yep.
If there's no vision, the people will perish.
Yep.
And
that is a quotable right there. If there is no vision, the people will perish.
That's from the Bible.
Oh, yeah, that's from the Bible. It's from the Bible.
And that's how I feel that Bitcoin has gone. I think it's become like hey, let's jump on the Bitcoin wagon and not really looked at everything around it.
Yes.
So I'm probably more of a fan of Bitcoin Cash.
Yep. So he said a few years, so maybe we'll say he said for 1 year's time, okay. So by the end of next year. All right, so Ripple, where do you think?
I don't know. I can't really predict, so
yeah.
I'm not good at predicting. So if Bitcoin will probably keep going up,
yeah,
it wouldn't surprise me if it hit $100,000.
Yeah,
and then people, who knows? I mean, if you're going to hold on to it, it will keep rising.
Yeah, exactly.
But if people at any time go, right, I'm going to cash in on this,
yep,
yeah, it will.
Yeah.
Yeah, but then the people will take the money out. So you can't really predict.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's really, obviously we'd all love to be like fortune tellers, right? But, the thing with even Bitcoin nobody expected it to get to where it is today.
No.
At least not for the price that it's at, except for maybe Roger Ver. He betted pretty big on Bitcoin becoming big. So, okay, look, we'll continue on.
Mm-hmm.
Litecoin through and through, yes. So as we were talking about Litecoin before. BTC is deflationary, so these are more just statements. Why are there so many cryptocurrencies? I thought the idea was to create a global decentralized value exchange system. Fragmenting seems counterintuitive. So let's maybe talk about that. Why do you think there are so many cryptocurrencies out now? Because I think Bitcoin was meant to be the competitor to PayPal, right? yeah, nobody really thought that all these other competitor cryptocurrencies would come out, but they have. So what do you think went wrong? Yeah.
I don't.
Yeah.
I think people just sort of maybe, yeah. Because
Anthony,
humans are, exactly what
greedy
Anthony
ducks.
because humans are greedy ducks. Yes, they are. And I think people jumped on the bandwagon. They saw what blockchain could do, and they thought, I could probably do this better than what Bitcoin could do it. And they started their own coins.
Yep.
I think some tokens are just for certain areas.
Yeah.
As Bitcoin is for everything, and you've got other ICOs that are just for certain things. So you might see pharmaceutical companies selling their own ICOs, their own tokens to track their own medical stuff, their own medicine. Yep. But yeah, I think Anthony's right.
Yeah. Humans are greedy ducks.
Yeah.
Okay, Rupa, I think, is a new member as well. Put, should you be investing in anything if you don't know how to access your profits if you make any? Can't follow price movement on a chart? You guys worry me. Rupa, this is exactly, and I had to mention here, thanks for sharing your concern, and it's a valid one. If you don't know what you're doing, then why do you do it? But the whole thing about cryptocurrencies is because it's a new-ish space, these type of groups exist for that very reason, to help people navigate through. And we use the analogy of the cryptocurrency space being sort of like the Wild West at the moment, because like the Wild West, nobody knew what the hell they were doing. Infrastructure was being made all the time. And
rules are being changed all the time.
Rules, exactly. And it was fair game for anyone to do whatever they wanted, really. And, thieves and robbers, I always think about, like, the train, that's going. Mm. And you've got the thieves and robbers coming on their horses and just doing stick-ups all the time. Hold-ups, stick-ups?
Yeah, hold-ups.
Hold-ups.
Yeah.
All right, hold-up all the time. And, because they could. And this is exactly what we're seeing in this space, because we have so many scams coming out now, whether they... Not all MLMs are scams, but, there are MLM-type scams. There are also ICO scams, where people have been duped into giving their money, and then the ICO just, will put an address back saying pretty much fuck you. And, then, all hell breaking loose for them. But it is on everybody to acknowledge that you don't ever spend more than you're willing to lose, and still be responsible, still make an effort to understand what it is you're investing in. A lot of people, as Anthony was saying, greedy ducks, because of this promise of easy money, people are forgetting that original vision of Satoshi and Bitcoin. And it is just about, speculation right now. So do everything in your power to get educated. And Rupa, if you are worried, then help us to help others. Okay? I don't think you need to discourage people from trying to get in, but you can educate them about this space. And that's why this group exists, and why we'll be releasing other things in the future, like crash courses, etc., to help in that process. And there are a lot of great other sites that are looking to do the same too. Mm. Any thoughts from you around this investing side and what she said here?
At the end of the day, like one of the things I have learned through the International Academy of Wealth and joining up with trying to understand the crypto world is it's actually on you to understand it. It is. The governments can only do so much to protect you, and you need to learn how to invest. You need to learn what to do. You need to have your own money rules.
Yes.
As to what you will and won't invest in, which will help direct where you want to go, because there's opportunities at the moment are like buses. There's ones coming every 15 minutes.
Yep.
And you need to know what you are going to do, what your rules are, what your morals are, and where you will go with that.
Yep.
It is nobody else's responsibility.
Yep.
Yeah,
yep.
Other than yours.
Completely agree with that. And with that, there's a link here right under your post, Rupa, from David Craig, who's one of our newer members as well. Oh, nice. I see Facebook has made some changes. Now you can see new members.
Awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah.
From David Craig, great post for the first 50 hours of your research, getting started. So this is another sort of like getting started guide. And we will be creating a guide as well for our particular community, synthesizing a whole bunch of things that we found as well. David Jackson. So IOTA chain. So, Internet of Things. Sorry, that's different. So David, no, it is the same as the IOTA. Wait, hold on. Let me know your thoughts if you're across the tech and if you're also across IOTA. Is this a low change version? Okay, David Jackson. We'll have a look at that as well. As we didn't talk about IOTA before, so we'll exchange notes. Shazar, I gotta say, if you are watching this, I've really enjoyed your posts. You ask some pretty.
Yeah, she adds a lot to the community.
Yeah, you do add a lot to the community. So thank you for the questions that you bring. Taking profits from a newbie trader. So it looks like you've already got some answers, but okay, let's take a look at the taking profits. What are your thoughts on? I guess if you were to put in $1,000, right, and you get a gain of maybe 3 times. Your money rules? Would you keep that money in there? Take it out? What would you do with it? How would you want to go with that?
For me, I'm reinvesting over the long term.
Okay.
And I would look at using some of that money to go into other coins, other altcoins that are showing potential.
Yep.
That's what I would do.
Yep.
But it's up to people what they choose to do.
Yep. Okay. So she says, how they're working their investors, do you set a trade price for when your coin reaches a certain level, buy and sell, so that it becomes an automatic trigger, say invest? Yes. So I'll also add to that, Shazar, that this is what bots do as well. It can help you with, like Poise. So Poise is another member of our group and also a member of the International Academy of Wealth. That Mark Robinson,
who's also a member of this.
Who's also a member. We like to share the love. Mark Robinson has a great community as well about how to build wealth in general, and cryptocurrency is just one aspect of that.
Yeah.
And but Poi is a member of both our communities, and he, I believe, is a reseller for Gunbot, which is a pretty well-known trading bot, which will allow you to do the things that you're trying to do, Shazar. So I would suggest, having a chat to Poi about your questions too. But in terms of taking profits, you can, but I think because of the way that the Australian government right now, and most governments, how they treat, I essentially try to keep my coins out of bank accounts. So yes, I will pull my money to purchase coins, but I am thinking long term as well, and I'm also looking to keep it so I don't have to put it back into a bank account. Roger Ver is also looking at creating a Bitcoin Cash credit card, I believe, which would allow you to spend your Bitcoin Cash automatically.
Because at the moment, I think the ruling is that it's a personal asset and you're allowed to spend it, but as soon as you cash out of it, you have to pay tax.
Yep.
You have to pay capital gains tax.
Yep.
On it. So it might be in your favour if you choose, like if it's in your money rules, that you get a CoinJack card and you use that money to buy your groceries or things like that, so you're not paying tax on it.
Yep.
Or you reinvest it over the long term to avoid the capital gains at this point of time until the government's rules catch up.
Yep. And to be fair, I think there's no doubt that the government is going to start putting in their regulations around cryptocurrencies. The U.S., it's already happening. South Korea has a cyber or cryptocurrency task force that they're putting together. So it is a matter of time that the government will try to play their hand. I think Australia is also looking at an electronic Australian dollar now or something.
Well, also the US government's looking at, I think I read not so long ago, to create their own blockchain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and see.
So yeah.
And see, my view on that is if all the countries start creating their own blockchain-based cryptocurrencies, to me, I see that defeating the purpose of, or the point of something like Bitcoin, which was meant to supersede all these nation states. It was meant to be borderless, right? The world that we live in is globalized, and someone like myself or even Kimberly, as we move around, you want to be able to, just be able to pay for stuff in one currency. Really, wouldn't that be nice if you could just have one currency around the world? So in that sense, it'll be interesting to see if that idea itself will latch on, and if we can't even get to that point. But that's something that I personally would like to back, that goal of Satoshi's Bitcoin being the global currency of the world. Yeah. And, And
China's got some rules around ICO's blockchain now as well. So
yep.
So two of the world's biggest economies have, got some tight rules around cryptocurrencies, and that just goes to show you how afraid they actually are of it.
Yeah, because the network effect is just huge, and it can't be stopped. Okay, Helen has, if I want to store my coins offline to something physical, what way do you guys recommend? Okay, so Shazar, she's got some good links there. She gave the independent reserve link, physical coin, attach a QR code, but then I'm not sure. Okay, so if you're talking about offline, something physical, there are things called hardware wallets, and this includes Trezor. I think there's one called NiceKeep, and then you also have like the Nano S Ledger. So there's a few other, and they look like USB drives or dongles. Mm-hmm. So you can use that to secure. And I'll comment, Helen, on your question with links to that. Mark Robinson also has put down that he's going to be doing a webinar in the new year around the tax side. Yeah. All right. So this is Australian based. So be on the lookout for that. We'll post a link. Joseph, Verge, 100% overnight. Okay, cool. No other altcoins. Carl. Sorry, Carl. I'll answer your question as well. But for the video, I'm interested to know what percent of the crypto for interesting venture this media hype. Okay. Question for you, Kimberly. Which coins do you think have the biggest hype around it at the moment?
Bitcoin Core?
Yes, okay.
It's just massive amount of hype at the moment.
Yes.
Without a lot of research. I think a lot of people are going, Bitcoin, and jumping on.
Yep.
And which is great. Like, if that's your first exposure to the crypto world, great.
Yeah.
But do your research.
Yep. And
really listen to what a lot of the news reels, what do you call it, news media are actually saying about it, and what's really behind it. Do you really understand blockchain technology? Are you just investing in it because your mate went, hey, I'm in this great thing, you should get in this great thing too, which is just fine, like if that's what you want to do, but you do need to do your own research, and don't listen to all the media hype about everything.
Yeah. We're talking about like empowering women in the blockchain space as well. And there's no doubt that like on Twitter and Reddit, it's like very male dominated. Yeah. I know we've had discussions around this, but what are your thoughts on how women can make the use of this cryptocurrency space, or what do you think is blocking?
I think women, we look at it and we just go, you know what? It's just too hard to understand. I don't get it. I don't understand this. How do I use this to buy things? What is its utility? It's where's the practical, the practical nature behind it.
Yep.
And then once we actually see the practical nature behind it, I think we'll get on there and go a lot more. But I also think that we haven't seen the vision. I don't think we as women have really seen the vision behind the blockchain as to actually who it was supposed to help.
Yeah.
Which is our sisters, if you want to call them sisters, in those third world countries who don't have access to bank accounts. Here in Australia, we're lucky. If we split up from our husbands or wives and our marriages break down, they can't come into our bank accounts and collect that money. If it's in our name, they can't get it.
Yep.
Well, they can if they go through the right channels, but it's a very long and drawn out, tedious process. In those countries around the world, they have no access to banks. They have no access to money. So how do they get out of situations that are of their no fault?
Yeah.
And we have to believe in that vision. And I get very passionate about it because I know women in this country have not been able to leave relationships because of finances. Now, if you were using blockchain technology and you knew someone in that situation, within seconds you can transfer money to them and help them get out. If you've got women in abusive relationships now, it's like, all right, when you go to the store, buy your things, withdraw $20 of cash, put that money aside. That's a very long and tedious way to get out of a bad situation. It takes time. With the blockchain, it's within seconds.
Yeah.
And especially with some charities, like, I don't want to say who they are, but why is it that 20 years down the track we're still seeing the starving children of Africa? Where is that money from sponsoring children going?
Yeah, right, because the blockchain, it's all accountable, like it's all transparent, like it can be seen.
Yep.
Everybody has a record of that. And that probably scares a lot of people.
Yeah, and you can sponsor, let's say if you're a really compassionate and charitable person, you can actually sponsor a family and know that money is actually going to them.
Yep.
And then they can show you what they're spending it on. It's transparent, you can see it. It's not hidden away where, sometimes we're lucky if 10% actually gets to the people. It actually goes to them directly, and that it's gone to them.
Yeah.
And I think that's something we really do have to get behind and support, rather than just, I'm going to get on this and feed myself and make a whole heap of money off this Bitcoin bubble, if that's what it is. I mean, I hope it's not, but, for me personally, is where is the vision? And do you really want to just invest in something for yourself, or do you want to invest in something that has a vision?
And it goes back to that, you get what you give, what goes around comes around, all of those sayings that they have, right? In order for the actual, if we just use, again, the Bitcoin network to work, and this goes back to the utility and the medium of exchange, right? In order for more value to be made, we have to also exchange, we have to trade. We can't just continue to hoard, which is what a lot of people are doing, right? People are just buying in and just wanting it to sit there and rise in price and feel good every day by looking at the rising prices. And of course it does feel good, but at the same time, this goes back to we have to empower, we have to enable, we have to help, we have to do something with our money. All right. If it is, buying groceries, great. But also, as you're helping to educate people, one thing that I do is I like, sending a few Bitcoin Cash dollars to people. And, that's because I've made profits from it. And you should be helping to stimulate the economy, and you should be helping to help people understand, right? To me, it kind of feels morally wrong if you make that money and then you don't really do anything with it. That's a whole utility. Because what it ends up being is that it's just this stagnant energy. Like it's grown, but it's not doing anything. It has no purpose other than just sitting there and just growing.
Yeah.
Like, what's the point of that? So for, folks who are just looking at the narrative of just a store of value, it's like, damn, think again. Like, that store of value narrative is just poor form, in my opinion. There needs to be that medium of exchange part.
Yeah.
It needs to be moving.
It needs to be being used. If it's not being used, what's the point?
Movement is life.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so we got about 4 minutes left. All right. Kimberly, what's a good final question that we could have? All right, what's your hope for the cryptocurrency space in the future? Let's say blockchain, right? Like, what would you like to see more of in the future?
Oh, more women in the space. And Shazar's been great. The women that are coming into this group is just phenomenal.
Yep.
And more women in this space.
Yep.
To balance it out a little bit more. And to, it's very male dominated. Nothing wrong with that. I do think sometimes as women we're drawn to certain areas and men are drawn to certain areas.
Yep.
But I do really think the space certainly needs more women in it.
Yep.
And to really start seeing the...
All right, okay.
Really start
Well, I have no idea what happened just there.
All right, okay.
Whoa. Okay, all right, guys. So, sorry, it got really hot in here, so I had to take off my sweater, and we got interrupted because I think my dongle lost power. So, yeah, just on that note, thanks for tuning in. Remember, do your own due diligence, do your own research, keep up the questions in the group. Remember to be helpful and supportive to everybody. Thank you very much to Kimberly as well for coming on tonight and sharing her side of the cryptocurrency journey, hers. And we'll see you again next Sunday. Now, I'm also noticing that I think the timing for these Sunday sermons are not that great for people, so I'll put up a poll soon to get your feedback as to what works for you and what doesn't. All right? So thanks again for tuning in. I will upload this video to YouTube shortly so that you guys can get access to it. And yeah, we'll see you soon. All right? So remember, patience and persistence, it will come.